Another week of Huddle Up here on Northwest Access TV. I'm your host, Paul. Yes, it's actually me. The mustache isn't a cover-up or anything. It's nobody else. With me today is a co-host we've had on before, and would like to welcome back Bryce. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for
joining
having me,
I guess.
Paul.
Joining us as in Northwest Access TV.
And I first just want to congratulate you on a mustache. Not everybody can pull that off.
I will take more credit from the beard. It was the beard and mustache combo, and I just shaved it, and it was just too hot for anything else. But
see, I just look creepy if I have a mustache.
I look creepy if I don't
can't
have
do
anything, so I need to keep at least something going on the face.
Yeah.
It's just too hot these days to keep the whole beard going.
Oh, I got you.
I know it's a Vermont thing, but I can't quite do it. We took last week off. I think the NBA hangover itself is already setting in, even though it's very long. It's very short-lived, our NBA hangover. So let's get right into it. Something that I think no one really saw coming was it going at least 5 or 6 games.
Yeah.
Not really thinking it was going to go 7, and in the end, believe land.
Well, I think my biggest takeaway is just nobody knows anything.
Yeah, right. Any analyst, right?
That's it.
And that includes us, because we're like, oh no, Golden State.
And we're obviously experts with lots of inside information.
I think when we last left it, was Golden State either up 2-0 or 3-1? I can't remember.
They were up 2-1.
Okay.
The Cavs had won their first game at home, big blowout.
Right.
And
we all thought, okay, so now the Golden State's going to come back and win Game 4, which they did, and then it would be easy pickings for Game 5 in Golden State.
Yep, I had reaffirmed my pick of Warriors in 5. We had talked about how it's the Cavs backs that are still against the wall.
Now,
Warriors are in control.
And I believe that our other co-host John said the same thing. He goes, no, this is a Golden State thing.
Yep.
Meanwhile, over on this side of the table, saying, how can you really count out the greatest player in the world?
Yeah.
And that's when there was a little more controversy of like, no, he's not the greatest player in the world. Let's hold back a bit. I'm like, well, he kind of cemented that, I think, this past weekend.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, if there was a best player in the world mantle, it was almost being taken away by Steph Curry. And LeBron. This whole season. I mean, really the last couple seasons, right? Because LeBron, even last season, took a couple weeks off and lost in the finals to Golden State. And then Golden State had historic season, best regular season in NBA history. But, man, LeBron took that mantle back in the finals. And, I mean, after, I would say games 5 through 7, I mean, he was just absolutely dominant.
This is one of those times where I go, if Golden State wins that game, how does LeBron still not win the MVP? And I know that doesn't really happen. The MVP of a team that doesn't win the championship rarely wins it.
It's only happened once, and it was Jerry West.
Jerry West? Okay.
Yep.
I can't think of another one. I should have looked it up before the show, which ones in other sports it's happened with.
Paul.
I know, I'm slacking on my background here. But it's crazy to think about that, is that he should have won it. Because there's nobody on that Golden State side throughout that entire series that impressed me so much.
Yeah, it's true.
Other than LeBron James. And not far behind LeBron James could be Kyrie Irving. He put up the points, and he made, if not the most crucial shot of the series, which gets overlooked by the so-called the block.
The block, yeah. I mean, Kyrie Irving, that three-pointer, that was a Steph Curry three-pointer.
On Steph Curry.
And Curry was actually playing good defense.
There were moments during that last 8 minutes watching that game, and I'm writing down times in the clock. I'm going, all right, now it's over. Curry made one of those threes with, I think, 8 minutes or 6 minutes left on the clock. That was like his type of three. It was from well beyond the arc, covered very well, and goes down like butter. Next is that next possession they had, Thompson hit a three from the corner where they go up. And I'm going, all right.
There it is.
This is one of those times where Golden State is just going to keep making their threes like they have all season, and they're going to be able to do this. Then there was a time, and I wrote it down. I remember writing it down because I had it on my phone. I wrote it down here. 4:54 left. LeBron, who has not hit his jump shots mainly all season. He's not a big jump shot shooter. But he makes a three. And I'm going, I think they went up 89-87 at that point for the three. And I went, I don't think you can stop LeBron at this point.
Right.
And this is at 4:54. This is minutes before the block.
Right.
And I'm going, LeBron's in. He is focused. He is ready. Like this is the LeBron James that I knew would show up for a game like this. And then at 150 something, it was the block. And I'm going, nope. It's in my mind, well locked away. LeBron James is not letting this title get away from him. He's come too close. Last year, they didn't get close enough.
Right.
This year, it's like it's already in his hands. He's already grasping the trophy at this point. And now it's like no one's getting past me. And that includes I forget who shot the ball. Was it Iguodala
Iguodala
that shot the ball. Had the breakaway. And then I can't remember who the player was that almost fouled him. He was with LeBron at the time of the block. He misses him by inches. Misses fouling him by inches. That could have again turned the whole game around. And a lot of people were saying, "Here comes overtime. Here comes overtime." And then you get, like you said, you have someone like Kyrie Irving that has really been there throughout the entire finals and continues to do it and makes the better of the plays. That's a play that they keep saying he's known for making.
Yeah.
Really, because I haven't seen it lately, him making a play like that where it's all on the line.
Right.
This is the first time. And the fact that he's just so young still. I mean, I think people forget he's 24 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, Kyrie Irving, you think Kyrie Irving, in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, he's been in the league a while. No, he really hasn't. He's been in Cleveland.
Right.
That's about it. So it's funny to me that everyone talks LeBron, everyone talks Steph Curry, but you had these role players in Cleveland that really were there when they had to be.
Yeah, and I mean, let's not forget too, Kevin Love struggled in this series, but he had a great Game 7.
Yeah.
I mean, he contributed really well. And I think Tristan Thompson also this series, I mean, showed why he got the big contract. Great role player, great getting boards, was scoring for them. I think there are 3 plays at the end of the game that really stick out to me that kind of just cemented it for Cleveland. 1, we already talked about the block. 2, we already talked about the Kyrie 3 over Steph Curry. But the 3rd one was when Cleveland was up by 3 and Steph Curry had the ball around the 3-point line looking to tie it up, and Kevin Love was playing defense on him. And Curry just kind of danced out there for a while when he could have driven by Love. Right? I mean, he's faster than Kevin Love. And
that's the matchup you would want.
Right. And gotten a wide open layup and to cut the lead down to 1, which is still totally manageable for the Warriors. But instead, I think he made the wrong decision by staying out by the 3-point line, trying to find space to get off a 3-pointer. And usually, I think against Kevin Love, he would be able to find that space. And Kevin Love, under normal circumstances, I probably would have fouled him on that 3-point attempt. But Kevin Love this time played great defense and didn't bite on any of Curry's shot fakes, didn't bite on any of his dribble moves and crossovers, and just played solid defense. And Curry, I mean, it's hard to say Curry settles for threes because that's kind of his bread and butter. But in that situation, I mean, he really just settled for a 3.
I think a lot of the time Golden State settled for the 3.
Oh, for sure.
That whole series. And I think if they had just been a little more aggressive under the boards, and we were saying that the whole series, be aggressive. You don't have to be out on the 3 the entire time. I know you kind of lived by that and died by that during the season, but it's okay to switch ways if it's going to work. And they had those opportunities, and they never took advantage of it.
Well, I think big trouble for them was when Andrew Bogut went down.
Right.
Because
you had Draymond Green out for an entire game.
Right.
You had Bogut out for the rest of the series.
Yeah.
For what, games 6 and 7?
Game 6 and 7, he went down in Game 5.
And that's that player that you've been relying on underneath
to
help you out.
Yeah, and I mean, Bogut's not a big scorer, but he's an inside presence, very good inside presence that allows the Warriors to play inside out. I mean, he's the guy that they throw it down into the post, which opens up the 3-point shooters around outside. And without Bogut's presence in there, they didn't really have another kind of big towering guy. They tried it a little bit with Varejao, but Varejao is no Andrew Bogut these days. Used to be. so they couldn't quite get that
There's no one
inside
on
outside.
that court that frustrates me more than Verjao. I have to throw that out there.
Me neither.
Every time he's on the court and anytime he's involved in anything, I'm like, stop.
But that's the thing. Cleveland was begging Golden State to throw it to Verjao.
Right.
I mean, and they know him better than any
Sure.
other team because he was on Cleveland for
And
a decade.
let's talk about Verjao for 1 second. Again, someone that frustrates me more than anybody. No matter what, he was getting a ring this year.
Yeah.
He played at least 30 games for Cleveland before getting traded to Golden State and played more than 30 games for them. So regardless, him going in here,
He's all set.
he's got a ring. I mean, it's not the ring you want
right.
because you weren't really part of the championship team, but in a way, he kind of was because of all the mistakes he was making for Golden State. So regardless, he was helping Cleveland.
He's
both
the real
ways.
MVP.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Man, I can't stand him. It frustrates me because of all the facial expressions, the over-exaggerated arms in the air, and it's just, the flopping is just left
Every
and
time
right.
they get that guy gets fouled. I mean, it looks like he just got tased.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Like he got a gunshot wound and
Right, the
he's
sniper
down for
got
the
him
count.
and he's down, sure.
Exactly.
So, to this moment, with the Cleveland parade was yesterday. I watched some of it live online, and it's just one of those feel-good stories for a city that's been without a championship for decades and decades and decades. I think J.R. Smith still doesn't have a shirt on. That's the big thing they were talking about, is that he just doesn't want to put a shirt back on the entire parade. He didn't have one on.
I didn't have one on either. I just put one on right before the show
Right,
started.
exactly. I haven't had it on for 3 days since they won. So I think it's just funny. I always look back when I'm seeing J.R. Smith walking around, basically just loving life. It reminds me of Johnny Gomes when the Red Sox won it in 2013. That guy never had a shirt on. Like, as soon as he started drinking beers after the championship, that was it. It was over.
But all of Boston didn't have a shirt on.
Right, exactly.
when that
No,
happened.
nobody did. So
Right.
it's just I love that they're really getting into it. There's a great picture of LeBron James doing his outstretched arms in front of the massive billboard on a building with him also doing the outstretched arms. And you can really tell that it's for some athletes when they win a championship, you can really tell it's all about them. With this one, and being LeBron is an all about me kind of guy, I was almost a little shocked to see it didn't really feel that way. It felt like I was really doing this for the land. I wasn't doing this for me. Am I cementing my legacy by this? Absolutely. But I needed to do this for this city. That's what I came out to do. When he left Miami, a big three situation where they could probably go and compete a little more and bring some more talent in and compete and go to the finals. He took a squad that won no more than 20 games.
Right.
And brought them to the championship on his back 1 year, and then brings them back to the championship the second year and takes it all against arguably one of the greatest teams in NBA history. I don't think it's about him. He had a goal at the beginning of this journey, and that's what he wanted to do.
Right.
I love it. It's the 4 years that it was 4 or 6 years he spent in Cleveland, coming drafted out of high school.
Right.
I always call it his college years. I think it kind of describes it the best, because he went into the NBA. He didn't really know how to play in the NBA, so now he's learning how to be an NBA star.
Right.
Now he goes to Miami, which you could pretty much say was like his first team out of college. That is Cleveland. Wins championships.
Yeah. And
now he's going, okay, I need to go back and do something and improve myself. Okay, I've proved I can do it with champions. Let's prove that I can do it with a running squad. And I think that's what he was able to do these last couple of years. And he also has one more year to be able to do that with a team that is fairly young and extremely talented.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I
know I just threw a lot out there.
Yeah. I think, I mean, you can tell this championship was bigger than just one team because, or 1 year, because it was for Cleveland and ending their 52-year championship-less drought. But I did notice watching the celebration. I mean, LeBron just wasn't going to let go of that Larry O'Brien trophy.
Or a cigar.
Oh, yeah. Or his finals MVP and just carrying both around.
Both around, yeah.
And it's funny because, you could tell that, like, this was a team effort to do this, and it was for Cleveland. But LeBron was almost being from Akron, the representative for the city of
Oh,
Cleveland.
no doubt. And he should be. He very well should be.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, every picture, you just see him carrying the trophy like nobody else, right? Stepping off the plane, holding the trophy, letting the fans see it. So I think this definitely cements
But if I'm a
LeBron's
fan
legacy.
and I'm
Yeah.
going to the parade, do I want to see anyone else holding
Oh,
it? I don't want to see
no.
Dellavedova holding
No
the
way.
championship. I don't need that. I
All
want,
of
I want to see
Australia
LeBron.
just turned against you
Yes.
right there.
They're not watching us. It's okay. We'll talk Ben Simmons soon. That's Australia.
What? They don't get Channel 15 in Australia?
They can online on our YouTube channel.
Live
Please
stream,
watch.
folks.
Yeah. All of Australia. I'm not even going to attempt. Okay. The one thing I would say when I'm comparing LeBron James of being that representative, I'm trying to think of a team in recent memory, even in my own fanhood of the Patriots and the Red Sox winning championships, the Celtics winning championships. Like when the Celtics won theirs, I didn't want to see anyone else hold that but Paul Pierce.
Right.
He's your main guy. He's been there through the good, through the bad, through the very bad. And LeBron James is in that same boat. I have no problem with him being the only person holding that championship because you proved you can do it. You proved you can stick it out through the worst of times and now for the best of times. So I have no problem with that. I don't really. It's funny how my opinion of LeBron James since being drafted out of high school has changed. When he was drafted out of high school, I'm like, oh, this kid, he's out of high school. Oh, it's going to be kind of cool.
Right.
And then I saw the arrogance, the very young arrogance. And I keep forgetting that, okay, he's only, at the time, 18, 19 years old. But I'm like, man, I can't stand this guy. And then the same thing happened all the way through the decision. You know, I'm taking my talents to South Beach. Couldn't stand it. And how quickly it has changed after him going to Cleveland going, LeBron James is not that bad. And I'm not that kind of person. I'm usually someone if I think it's going to take a lot for that to happen. And I think him going back to Cleveland and making that his ultimate goal to bring them back a championship at all costs.
Right.
Cemented, in my opinion, like it's now on a positive note with LeBron James, and that's why you hear me saying things like he's the greatest player in the world. Because normally I would try and find one person in the NBA and say like, no, let's hold that back a second. However, I will get into now where does he sit, and I'll ask you on the greatest of all time.
Oh boy!
And there are plenty of players that should be considered over him. And I'm not saying he's the greatest of all time, but where does he sit now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think he's definitely in the top 10.
You think he's in the top 10?
I think he's in the top 10 for sure. I mean,
I think he needs some more years to be considered that.
Yeah.
But the best part about that is he's not very old, and his surrounding group is also very young and very talented. So I think over time he's gonna get to that point. Who is he chasing right now? I think it's easier. It's easier to say, okay, where does he lie in the top 10? But who is he chasing right now? I have someone in my mind that he's chasing right now, but I'll ask you first.
Yeah. Well, I think so. I think LeBron is kind of an interesting case when we have this discussion because I'm sort of like you, where I've never totally had a favorable opinion of LeBron James, especially after the decision.
We'll see what happens when he does Space Jam 2.
Right,
and then we'll decide. That'll be the deciding factor.
He's got to be
you know
like
what?
Mike.
He was pretty good, so I think I'm okay with it.
His acting chops, I tell you.
Yeah.
I think the question I always go back to is if I could create a starting 5 for all players in NBA history, like who would be my starting 5? I mean, traditionally my starting 5 has usually been.
They're not all Orlando Magic.
They're not all Orlando Magic.
Shaq.
Only 4 of them are Orlando Magic. No, I'm just kidding. Point guard Magic Johnson, shooting guard Michael Jordan, power forward Tim Duncan, center Bill Russell, and it's always been the small forward.
Okay.
Do I go with Larry Bird or LeBron James?
I'm so glad you brought that up, and I'm so glad you brought those two people up because I happen to have statistics that compare the two.
Of course.
On one of the websites that I go on for sports and stuff like that, they put the crazy out there about greatest of all time of anything. And this one was who is the best small forward of all time. And it just so happens, we didn't plan this either, that you had picked Larry Bird or LeBron James, because that's who I have to compare to. This is of all time, this is career stats leading up to the NBA Finals of this year.
Yeah.
That LeBron James versus Larry Bird. So I'll say Larry Bird's numbers and then LeBron James' numbers, okay?
Okay.
Points per game, 24.3, 27.2, LeBron James. Rebounds per game, Larry by 3. It was like 10 to 7. Assists per game, LeBron by a few decimal points, just over 6. Steals per game, even at 1.7. Field goal percentage. Believe it or not, LeBron James has a better field goal percentage than Larry Bird by .002.
Right.
They're almost at 500 for shooting percentage. 3-point percentage, Larry Bird takes that by .030. I can't read that one. It looks like it says 1-1. Okay, so 1-1. So free throws. Larry Bird is considered one of the greatest free throw shooters of all time at 886% over 74.4%. NBA championships, they both won 3. I thought Bird actually won more than that, but that's just my ignorance.
Got to the finals more, but
right. NBA seasons at this point was 13. I thought Larry played more than that, but I could be wrong. All-Star games, 12 each. MVPs, LeBron has 4, Larry Bird has 3, and Finals MVPs, Larry Bird had 2, LeBron has 3. So LeBron James, on most of these categories, is surpassing Larry Bird, which is scary for someone like me. Being a Boston kid growing up, you're always taught your greatest players of all time are, Bill Russell, Larry Bird, Kevin McHale. There was no compare. Like, those are your greatest players of all time.
Bill Simmons calls Larry Bird basketball Jesus.
Right. So you have this player that is, since I'm a little kid, cemented greatest of all time. So when I'm comparing people, I'm like, well, he's not Larry Bird, and then I throw some stats out there. And now you have LeBron James that statistically, and I'm a very big statistics person. If I see your statistics are better than another person, in my opinion, you are better than that person. Right. And there's obviously statistics to back that up. So, but am I ready, in my own opinion, in my mind, to say, oh yeah, LeBron James is better than Larry Bird? Here, here's the stats. Look it up. I don't think I'm there yet.
Yeah.
But like I said, for years and years, as a kid, teenager, you're told Larry Bird is one of the greatest basketball players of all time. So to put LeBron James ahead of him is a very tough task for me, especially when I don't have that great of opinion of him anyway. But back to your argument, it's a coin toss at that point. If I'm looking today, because he's what's here right now. LeBron is here right now. He's what we're seeing every day. I think more people are going to go with someone like LeBron James. You get that older generation that actually got to see Bird play. We'll pick someone like him.
Yeah,
but it seems like LeBron, at this point, if these stats are correct for career stats, LeBron James still isn't done yet.
That's the thing.
He's only played for 13 seasons in the NBA.
Right.
He could play. At this rate and how he's going right now, and I know he doesn't have much hair left on his head for that fade to continue backwards, but he can still play ball. So I say he's still got another, think about it, 10 years left? Easily?
I wouldn't be surprised. I
don't know how old he is. He came in the league at 18.
He's 31 now.
He's 31 years old.
Now,
Kobe just retired at 40?
He could probably play 7 or 8 more years.
And then let's say
barring a
five
crazy
and let's say 5 years of the ball
Yeah.
he's playing right now, if not just slightly under.
Right. Here's some things you have to think about in terms of Larry Bird, though. That Larry Bird went to college, right? So
For 4 years, right?
So
let's say it was 17 years that he of basketball experience, more than LeBron James, who has 4. So that's the thing. So when Larry retired, he was probably about 35, 36 years old, and he had some bad back issues.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing.
That's what you said. Barring any crazy injury, LeBron James could continue on as he goes.
That's one of the hypotheticals for Bird, because if you think about all those players who in previous generations had to leave the league early because of injuries, if you put them in the league now, where we have far more advanced medical training
Sure.
and ways to prevent and care for these injuries, that these types of injuries aren't death sentences for your basketball career. I mean, how much longer could Larry Bird have played
right.
without, a giant back brace that weighed like 20 pounds? For me, I think the question is, between the two, and this is why LeBron is so interesting, that his physical makeup is really unlike any small forward we've really seen before.
We've ever seen, right? Because now compare the two, Larry Bird to LeBron James.
I mean,
You've
Larry
got
Bird
this
is a stick.
tall, lanky Indiana boy
with a killer mustache, just like
he did have a killer mustache. You couldn't see it very well because he was blonde, but and an arrogance to him that was humbling at the same time. It was very weird.
He had that killer instinct,
absolutely,
right? That and I don't totally think LeBron has.
I think we see it in spurts.
Right.
I think we definitely saw it this final series where there were times where he's putting down shots and he's making plays, and you're going, there it is.
Right.
But I agree with you. Larry Bird was one of those freaks of nature, that Michael Jordan-esque persona of it's mine.
Yeah.
And you're not going to touch it.
Yeah, and I think, LeBron, he doesn't always have that killer instinct every single game.
Right.
I mean, the guy...
It's almost like he can turn it on when he wants to. Like,
and at some
I
points...
think I'm going to play today.
And at some points, it also is kind of about smarts that, especially during the regular season, he sort of knows...
it's not about
when
the
to
regular
coast
season,
a little
right.
bit just to preserve energy for the
was
playoffs.
that Golden State's downfall this year, or do you think it didn't really matter?
I don't think so. I mean, you could try to make an excuse that they were tired after the 73-9 season. I don't totally think so. I think that Curry and Thompson just stopped being able to make shots, and I think that especially Harrison Barnes stopped being able to make shots. One of my hypotheticals for these finals, or what would have happened if Draymond Green hadn't been suspended for Game 5.
I think they would have. I think
the Warriors could have won in 5
easily.
Right?
Easily. I think he was the biggest one. When we were talking earlier this year about Curry had gone down, I think it was in the playoffs, the beginning of the playoffs or end of the year, and the beginning of the playoffs, and we went, well, if you had to have someone fall at this point, I'm kind of would hope it would be Curry, because you can continue on with Draymond Green and I'm going to forget his name again. Their other three-pointer.
Klay Thompson.
I don't know why I keep forgetting his first name. Klay Thompson. I think you can carry on, especially when you had people like Bogut and Barnes. You could continue to play that way.
Right.
If you have someone like Draymond Green out, who is, in my opinion, and John had agreed with me at that point, is kind of your center stone. Without Draymond Green, you don't have a real big core there.
He spreads out the floor for them.
Right.
I mean, that the guy can drive inside really effectively, but also shoot the three-pointer really well.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Selectively, yes.
Right. So, but I mean,
not the first shot of the game.
Yeah. but that was the issue for Golden State in Game 5. They didn't have Draymond to really spread out the floor like they usually do.
Right.
And that even though Iguodala is I still think a very good player, people can kind of stay out on the three-point line with him because he's not going to go down and really post up. With Draymond, you have to be aware of that, so they don't totally go all the way out to the three-point line and just close that down. And then when Bogut went down, again, they couldn't quite do that inside-outside, especially when Bogut went down, and they didn't have Green.
Is this really any different? It sounds like we're just turning the tables. This was Cleveland. This was Cleveland last year.
Yeah,
Cleveland had the momentum going in,
for sure,
and you had this team that just started to fall apart. You know, whether you replace an injury with a suspension, but it's kind of very similar.
Yeah, I mean, so for sure,
maybe Golden State has a few more role players that can actually do some things, but it seemed very similar. Just in talking right now,
I think it is. The situations are somewhat similar, but I think even with those players going down, Golden State was still in a better situation than Cleveland was last year.
No, I'm not disagreeing that, but I'm saying it's similar in a sense where, like, all right, people are going down. Meanwhile, the team that you're playing is the same as the same as
I mean, and one of the things that just annoys the crap out of me from last year are people saying that the Warriors only won because the Cavs were injured, right? And that they really shouldn't have won the championship.
5 or 6? 6 games. So still went to 6 games.
Right. And but I think it's different because Cleveland last year, I mean, they They were trying everything. LeBron was single-handedly willing them to 2 wins that they probably shouldn't have gotten if he hadn't willed them that much, and Dellavedova didn't become Superman
out
for
of
2
nowhere,
games.
right?
The Australian Superman. But Golden State, even though they didn't have Green for 1 game, even though they didn't have Bogut for the rest of the series, they still had every opportunity to win, and they just didn't close it down. So, winning a finals, it's a mixture of skill and luck, right? And I think Cleveland had that luck of staying healthy.
Yes.
This finals run. Golden State somewhat had the misfortune of losing Green for 1 game on, I would say, a pretty iffy call by the NBA to suspend him on that. And also Bogut going down. But also they just stopped being able to hit shots. They're taking all their normal shots. They just weren't going down. And that's kind of unlucky. Some credit, for sure, to the Cleveland defense.
Right.
But they just kind of got unlucky at the end. But that's a part of it.
So
Cleveland worked harder than Golden State.
And I want to shout out to any Golden State fans that are watching right now, and if they even are watching right now or plan to watch in the future, it doesn't get better. Being a New England Patriots fan and watching your team lose in the final seconds of a game to cement themselves as the greatest player, the greatest team of that time, it does not get better. They are going to talk about this for a very, very long time. And even if you win another championship in the near future, they're going to talk about it every single time. Anytime that you're wearing a Golden State shirt and you pass somebody with a Cleveland shirt on, they're going to let you know about it. They're going to go, they're going to, if you're holding something in your hand, they're going to block it out your hand. That's what they do. Every time I see people, a New York Giants fan, they're always like, hey, what's going on? How's it going?
It's the worst.
It's great.
It's the worst.
No, it doesn't get any better. Especially when you're trying to be, and already athletes are doing this with Golden State. Pippen's come out, Jordan. They're all coming out saying well, guess you're not the greatest, So even though you have this amazing regular season that is you completely dominate on, it doesn't matter unless you get that championship, and it's not going to get any better anytime soon. It's going to be a little while.
Right. Granted,
if they come back next year and can put on a similar season, all the power to you, but it doesn't get any better.
In this final
I wish
series,
it would. I wish I could. I wish there was a silver line, just there's always next year. No, you lost that opportunity. Yeah. Are you really going to go out there and win another 73? Now you got to go farther. Now you got to win 74. If the Patriots ever go 19-0, it's not going to. It's really the only way that they're going to be able to look back on that 18-1 season and say, okay, it's finally behind us. It was a lucky play. We're okay. See, we still can do it. That's what's ahead for the Golden State. If you want to put this one behind you, you need to go 74-8, which is, again, unheard of because 72-10 was unheard of.
Yeah.
So you've gone 73-9. Now you have to go 74-8 and win the championship.
Right.
It's a task that is after the Bulls did it, it was almost like that's never going to happen. Golden State got ever so close. Up 3-1, ever so close.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things really hurt Golden State. One is the final schedule of having 2 nights off in between every game.
I don't get that. I was discussing that. It doesn't make any sense for the fan, and it honestly doesn't make any sense for the player. And I've been told, well, they need a travel day. What do you need a travel day for? This is the end of the season. Don't you want this to end? I want this to actually go into July.
They've got flights to catch for Cabo.
Oh my God, it's crazy.
But I mean,
tea times lined up. We need to get this game over with.
They have it penciled in that they're going to watch our local sports show.
Right.
And they need to be able to.
They need to know what we're going to say about them.
Absolutely.
Right.
But even Steve Kerr said that the Warriors, they're a rhythm team, and having 2 days off between every game takes them out of their rhythm.
And I think that's part of why you didn't see Curry and all them coming out towards the end of the season and still going for that 73 wins is because they are a rhythm team. They're a team that needs to stay hot to be able to keep up their momentum.
For sure.
And 2 days off is a killer. I think at one point they played what was it, like a Thursday night, and then they didn't play till, was it Sunday night?
Yeah.
So you're thinking you really had almost 72 hours before your next game.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's a long time to wait for a game, especially when
is.
I don't think that was a travel day either. I think they had the Friday and Saturday off, and then at one point during the series there was a 2-day off stint where you stayed home.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense. But I mean, I think the other thing that kind of brought Golden State back down to earth is. During the regular season, you'll play really good teams, but then you're going to have a couple games where it's against pretty awful teams, right? So you still use those opportunities to sort of get rest. You don't necessarily have to go 100%. In the playoffs, you're playing the best in the league every game, and so you can't really take a game off to rest or coast.
You're going to play, not 8 teams, but there are 8 teams that are in your part there that are the best in the league.
Yeah.
Now you have to play those, and you really don't know who you're going to play. You can see from a bracket standpoint, okay, if we beat them, we'll play them. We beat them. But there's at least 6 to 7 teams that you have to be prepared for, and they're the best in the league.
Right. And to sort of bring this full circle a little bit back to our Bird and LeBron conversation, I think that's also one thing that sort of separates them, that I think Bird consistently had tougher competition in the playoffs than LeBron has had during his career, because the Bird Celtics, they had to go against Isaiah Thomas's Pistons towards the end of his career. Michael Jordan's
let's keep
Bulls.
this in mind, and I always bring this up. You don't know who's going to be the greatest of all time yet. Okay, so yes, you were saying you're playing Isaiah Thomas and you're playing Michael Jordan. You were playing a very young Michael Jordan, like
Dr. J's Sixers.
Sure, but I don't know if you've seen. You have. The talent that LeBron James is playing right now is still very young.
Right.
Who knows where Kevin Durant will be on the all-time list when he finally hangs him up?
Once he finally goes to Boston.
Right. Or L.A., I guess. I don't know where he's
or
going.
Golden State.
Golden State.
They could do it.
Who knows where Steph Curry's going to land on that all-time list? We don't know where these players are going to land. So we say, oh, yeah, well, Larry played this guy and this guy. But LeBron James is playing these people. I mean, LeBron James played Kobe for many years. So and he's considered one of the best of all time. So I mean, I think LeBron's list is just incomplete. Yes, where LeBron is now, but let's see in 10 years when LeBron James finally hangs them up at like 40, 41.
Right.
And say, okay, who has he beat and where do they stand right now? Because in 10 years, say Steph Curry could be one of the all-time leading scorers at that point, the way he shoots. So, well, LeBron James, he played Steph Curry. He's one of the best shooters of all time. Okay, so now we got that kind of sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to say, like, the Bird's played. Yeah, but that's already been there. He's already done that. LeBron James, his career is still current.
Right.
He's only 13 years into a league where he could, his freak of nature mentality could just go for another 10 years.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why, Bird or LeBron, that's why it's just a debate right now.
Sure.
Right? Once he retires, I mean, hindsight's 20/20, and we can look back at both of their careers and completeness.
There's no doubt in my mind if LeBron James plays for 10 more years, regardless of where he is, he's going to win a couple more championships.
Oh, for sure.
Because he's a very smart man in that sense too. He knows where he needs to go. Cleveland, when he was drafted, isn't his decision. That's not his choice. Someone says, "Okay, you're going to," Cleveland says, "We're picking you. You're coming to Cleveland." Ah, crap. Okay, well, it's my hometown. Great. Okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing he could do as a kid to help himself win at that point. Just do the best he can.
Right.
Then he has a decision. Okay, I'm going to go with my friends. We're going to go play in Miami. We're going to win championships.
And I almost think that was sort of his college experience.
Right.
Right? Going away from home for 4 years.
Absolutely.
Getting some experience and titles under his belt, and then
Right.
going back home to try to
I can
finish
see
some
that.
business, if you will.
I still think the 4 years in Cleveland or however long it was is basically what it was his college experience.
Right.
It was NBA learning curve.
Well, I mean, he was just...
And that's on a player standpoint, and that's on
Right.
a business standpoint. He went to Miami to win championships.
Oh,
I need to start my legacy. I can't do that if I stay here.
Yeah, and he was too young in his first stint in Cleveland to really hold all of that on his own, and he didn't have any help. I mean, the other best players on his team were Anderson Varejao and Mo Williams.
Right.
So,
all right, let's not go bad on Mo Williams now. Come on now. That's a champion right there.
That's a champion.
That's an NBA champion, Mo Williams, you're talking about. So let's talk about a little bit of the future. Tonight is the NBA draft. I've been looking forward to this day because I am a statistics person, and I'm a very big management in that sense for when it comes to the NBA. I love the minds that these GMs have where they're able to not even predict the future, but just kind of see where other teams are going and make moves that benefit them. And that would be the number 3 pick at Boston Celtics when a few years ago, they traded away their 2 most iconic players at the time in Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett to the Nets for the first round pick of the 2016 NBA draft. And everyone's going, that's years away. The Nets are like, we're going to be awesome. That pick's going to be worthless. Come to find out, lottery stands it. The Celtics have the number 3 pick. They also have 8 other picks in this draft. And at this point, have tried to trade away this number 3 pick and haven't even come close to finding the value that they want. I think it's very obvious that the Celtics want someone that is NBA ready,
right?
Which means that they want a player that's in the NBA right now that's already proven himself.
Yeah.
But there seems to be no teams out there that want to take that gamble and go with what's out there in the draft to give away their star player to the Celtics. So it almost seems as if, and I'm not going to count Danny Ainge out because he's done some crazy things these last umpteen years of him being the GM, where even up to that last point, those last minutes, there are deals being made. So I don't really want to count him out yet, but it almost, in my opinion, feels like they're going to make a pick tonight. They're actually going to use the pick. And that's something I've wanted them to do and not trade it away, but it's really not his style. He's more of trade it away, get someone now type of deal.
Yeah, I mean, so there is a rumor that Danny Ainge has reached out to Kevin Love's agents for a possible trade. Though now that Cleveland has won the championship,
do you really want to leave LeBron and your friends?
And
no, I don't.
Since Richard Jefferson is retiring, Kevin Love has a starting spot back. Losing it to Richard Jefferson, that's great.
It's hilarious, right?
But yeah, I mean,
but good for Richard Jefferson.
Go out on top, buddy.
Can you imagine NBA anarchy if LeBron James says, "All right, I did it, Cleveland. I'm out. I'm going to retire in South Beach. I'm done.
The whole Eastern
I'm done
Conference
playing."
would just fall apart.
Right. There's no top tier anymore. It's everyone's game.
No, but I think I'm the opposite of you, actually, on this one. That I think the Celtics really need to make a move.
I'm not saying they don't need to make a move. I think they won't make a move. I think that they're going to pick the young talent that's out, someone that's out there, and they're going to run with it because of who Brad Stevens is and the kind of coach he is and how he's able to develop these young kids and make them into a competitive team, which he's proven in a very, very young career as an NBA coach.
Right. But the thing about the Celtics is I think they're ready for the jump. Right. I think the players
they're
on the
an
team,
all-star away from being a very
for sure.
competitive team. And they were competitive throughout the season, even taking Golden State, beating Golden State in Golden State,
right,
and losing to Golden State in overtime, double overtime, I think it was. So this is a team that can play with the top, and they did the same thing against Miami, and they did the same thing against Cleveland. They're not a team that shies away from these big teams. They're up there to compete. They were, I think, a win away from being a 3, 4, or 5 seed, I think, in the NBA playoffs. So they're not a team to sleep on in any shape or form. And they're an all-star away from being able to do that. They have the likes of Avery Bradley and Isaiah Thomas, Marcus Smart. They have a team that is a young core that can play. They're very smart. They're a very smart team. But they need that all-star.
Oh, yeah.
So whether that is a Kevin Love or a Kevin Durant, I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to find someone that is an all-star for a team, maybe not the first choice all-star. And I think that's okay because anyone that goes to the Celtics that is a big name is going to be considered the number one player there anyway.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they got to be careful with who that is, but I think it would be smarter for Ainge to try to trade this pick. Pretty much up to the very moment that they have to.
Right, and I think the problem that they're seeing is there are other teams out there, and this is not my own opinion. These are analysts that are saying this on like ESPN and all that. Is that because they have so many picks, they don't have a lot of trading power in this sense, because you have all these picks. What are you going to... You have no choice. You have no choice but to trade this number 3 pick. So what are you going to give away? You're going to give away the first-round pick, and because they have, like... I think they have the 3rd, the 16th, and, like, the 23rd of the first round or something like that. It's an insane... like
They have 13% of the picks for the whole draft.
For the entire draft. So they don't really have a lot of trading power here. It's almost like, well, you have to make a pick. So you want to get rid of that 3rd pick. I'm not really going to give you much for it because you're in desperate need of this. I feel like the Celtics are in more need of getting rid of their 3rd pick than any team in that sense is desperate of getting that 3rd pick. And that's my own. Opinion.
Yeah, and I think especially in a pretty weak draft.
Right. I mean, there's some good names in there. I just don't know. I think the names you want are the ones that are going 1 and 2. And right now it's Ben Simmons that is predicted, or there's sources close to the situation, whatever Bouchard says, that Ben Simmons is going to be going to Philly, and that Brandon Ingram from Duke, is it Duke or Kentucky? No, Kentucky? Duke? Whatever one. Brandon Ingram is going to...
you can tell I'm an NBA fan and not...
Yeah, is going to LA. So then you have... the Boston Celtics sitting at 3. Okay, who do they have? And there are some players that kind of get me excited. I loved watching Buddy Hield in the NCAA bracket, or March Madness rather. But I feel like that's my ignorance of an NBA, of a basketball fan in general. I didn't see much of him. I hear his name, but I didn't get to see much. So I'm like, oh, Buddy Hield, he was great in the tournament. It was fun to watch. And it's like, oh yeah, you should get him. So that's just my ignorance. Like, okay, maybe you shouldn't pick him up. There are other players, Chris Dunn from Providence. I think that's, in my opinion, I think that's where the Celtics are going to go because Danny Ainge isn't afraid of picking the local talent, and you get to see him more often as well, being from Providence. He's also someone that's come on and said, I'd be real comfortable in Providence because other than Brandon Ingram and Ben Simmons, that field is wide open. The Celtics can pick whoever they want out of that entire draft class. So... I mean, so any player at this point can say, like, yep, Boston sounds great. Boston sounds great. Every player can say that right now because that's the next destination.
Yeah.
But it's funny how there are sources that say, like, okay, Ben Simmons, Philly, Brandon Ingram, Lakers, and there are still sources and people out there saying, those are terrible picks. They should not go there. I mean, I don't know where Philly goes. Do you go with just the unanimous type of Ben Simmons is going to be the number 1 best player in this draft? Do you go when you didn't really get to even see him very much?
Yeah, and I think...
he dominated in college, but he didn't even get to the tournament because his team was so bad, and he's still going number 1.
Yeah, and I think Ben Simmons actually has a lot more than he showed in college because he was on such a bad team that was clearly not going to make the tournament, and I know he tried to do something a little unconventional by going to a school that's not really a powerhouse in basketball anymore and turning things around. Didn't work. And so I think you saw by the end of the season he sort of coasted a bit, but I think put him in the NBA in a good situation, and I think he can be a really good player. The trouble is Philadelphia is not exactly that great situation.
I would say it's exactly not the situation you want to be. Just not exactly. It is the worst possible place you could possibly go to.
Which is why Boston should trade for Ben Simmons.
It's funny we talk about like, oh, they should do this, and these are like fantasy like world. Like I want to see Ben Simmons in a Celtics jersey. There are a lot of players in this draft that I would like to see in a Celtics jersey, but like you said, I think they're going to draft someone tonight. I don't want them to draft someone tonight. I want them to trade it away for an all-star. I mean, just yesterday, Derrick Rose's life changed forever. He's going to New York. And I've got New York Knicks fans that are like, why do we need someone that is past their prime and they've been on the downfall?
Because he's still better than any point guard the Knicks currently have.
Right, exactly. I was like, why are you complaining?
That is still a step up for the Knicks.
If the Celtics had Derrick Rose, I'd be making my own Rose jersey on NBA.com. That sounds fantastic to me. Leave it to New York fans to find the absolute bad in an all-star player. It's just injury.
And
if you get past the injury, he's a still player.
And the other rumor is Dwight Howard potentially to the Knicks.
Really?
Well,
oh my God!
Create a big four.
That's like a
big four.
That's
Carmelo,
like a triangle
Howard.
of doom, or whatever it is. It's like, okay, you have a player that doesn't want to play anywhere, a player that can't stay healthy, and a player that can never get decent talent around him and could be one of the better players in the NBA in Carmelo Anthony. And now it's like you're just adding fuel to the fire at that point.
This will be Phil Jackson's greatest test.
If he can make these three work. Okay, Phil. All right. No, I mean, he's already that GM coach that he's already cemented his legacy. You know what he can do.
He doesn't have to do anything else.
He really doesn't. At this point, he's kind of like, I'm just doing it for fun.
Busy.
It just sounds fun. Let's just put these three in a room together and see what happens.
Some people in retirement, they start gardening.
Yeah.
Phil Jackson
just picks up old NBA players and runs the Knicks. Right. Okay. That's fine. I'm very excited. I'll be there. I'll be glued to my TV tonight watching for the third pick. I love the NBA. I love drafts in general. I really rarely know anything about the drafts when they're happening, especially stuff like baseball and NHL. They do a terrible job of promoting when those drafts are, so I never get to watch that in general. The NFL, I mean, to the point, to the day, how far out in years to come when the actual NFL draft is. They're very good about that. And the NBA as well. Those are your two best ones to watch. You want to see that. You want to see the kids sitting at the table and them cheering with their families and getting the calls and things like that. I think that's what I love about it most, is that these kids' lives are literally changing for the better too.
Right.
They set out at a young age to say, I'm going to be an NBA player, and they're helping their family by doing that.
I think the NBA is the best draft. Because it's only 2 rounds, you can sit down and watch it in one night.
You can watch it in one night.
NFL, it stays.
It's like a 4-day event.
Right. Just too long for me to watch. And the MLB, I think it's that these kids are getting drafted, but they're going to be...
Right, and here's the good part about the NBA draft and the NFL draft. Right. These players that are being drafted are going to be on that team next year.
And MLB, you're not going to see them for a couple years. You're not going to forget
their face. Right. You're not. The MLB's number one player, rarely do you see him in a couple years. He's got to go through the ranks from single A up to triple A.
And even sometimes to college.
Right, exactly. Sometimes they go to college for another year, go to their playoff round or whatever, and then they go. That's the best part about the NBA and NFL, is that these faces are going to you're going to remember them.
Right.
Because they're not gone for very long. You're going to see Ben Simmons. Not only is he going to be drafted number 1, he's already signed a deal with Nike, so you're going to see his face everywhere. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to see him throughout the entire year, how he's doing in the summer league and how he's doing in preseason, and you're going to see him in Philly. The only reason we see Philly highlights these days is because they keep picking up the number 1 pick in the draft, and they want to show highlights of these players.
Yep.
So it's like, okay, Philadelphia, only 10 wins this season, but look how well Ben Simmons is playing. They've been doing that for recent years.
They got to trust the process.
I don't think there is a process. I think the process is we are a dying franchise, so let's just keep picking up the number 1 just to put butts in the seat. And that's basically what they're doing. That's what they've been doing. They're not making any moves during the season or during the offseason to bring in talent with this other young talent that they have cemented for 4 to 5 years anyway, because that's how contracts work for first-round picks. They're not doing anything outside of the draft that's making them any better.
They sort of made one notable move last year, which was trading for Ish Smith so that they could actually have a real point guard. He's certainly not an all-star, but he's a good
I haven't
role.
heard of him. So
he used to play for the Magic, so
that's why you know about him, right?
That's
why in your mind he's the greatest point guard of all time.
He's amazing.
How did they not win the championship this year?
Ish Smith is almost taking over Magic Johnson in my top 5 all time.
Get out. I'll finish the show.
No, but that's really the only move that they've made, just to even just get a solid role player in there to try to develop some of their big guys. But we don't know Joel Embiid. We haven't seen him yet.
He didn't even play all year. He was hurt. No. He was hurt for most of...
He hasn't played in the 2 years that he's been eligible. So we don't know what that's going to look like, but they keep drafting people in the same position.
Is it Karl Anthony Towns? Is he there too? Am I getting the wrong guy?
He's in Minnesota.
Minnesota. Okay, no, I'm thinking of the wrong guy. Okafor.
Yep,
so
Okafor, which there are rumors that Boston's interested in trading for him.
We can give Philly the number 3 pick, because from what I was reading is that Philly really likes this kid Chris Dunn from Providence, and that's what I just keep reading from all the analysts and inside and all that stuff. Yeah, my sources. I got people calling me. Chris Bouchard.
We're just like your Uncle Hank.
Yeah,
on Twitter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That they really like Dunn and they don't want him to go too far. But he's not going to get out of. It sounds like Chris Dunn is one of those players that will only go throughout the top 5, and that's it.
Right.
So Philly would have to make a move. But the Philly talent, their talent would play really well with the Celtics because you take a kid that is very young and inexperienced and on a team of nobodies. You put him on the Celtics, now he becomes a role player.
Right.
So
the problem though is that's still not quite the all-star.
One of our people online says KD to the Spurs. I hope not.
By the way, we're live on Periscope, so we are getting some random questions on my iPad over here.
I honestly don't know where KD's going to show. I don't know. I think that the Spurs is definitely a team that could convince him.
Yeah.
But they are an also older generation type of team. Does KD want to go there with? You got people that are walking out the door, basically. But he could be again that new face of the Spurs.
KD to the Spurs, it's still a good move for him because even if Duncan and Ginobili and Parker retire, they still have Aldridge and Kawhi Leonard to build around. And
Kawhi Leonard's the one that I say, okay, you still have that big role player there. So
the ones that make sense for KD, the Spurs, even Golden State.
I don't think he goes well to Golden State.
I don't think he's going to.
He almost has to become a 2 or a 3 because you're not the biggest name on that team.
Right.
Where else can he go other than places like Cleveland and Golden State where he wouldn't be considered the number 1?
Well, I think possibly San Antonio.
Right.
Too. But I think Boston would make a lot of sense for him. But I honestly think he's going to stay in Oklahoma City.
I think at least for one more year.
They have a good team there.
I think for one more year.
Take one more year on his option. So he and Russell Westbrook are free agents the same year. But
at the same time, the salary cap also goes up next year.
Right.
So he can pretty much go, if he wants to, he has that decision to go now.
Yeah.
Get that max contract, which he'll get anywhere he goes.
Right.
But it depends on where he's going to go.
Yeah. So he's the most interesting in free agency.
I can't wait for free agency this whole offseason is going to be fantastic to see where these players go, and a lot of it's going to start tonight.
And more emoji battles on Twitter. Yeah. Just like surrounding DeAndre Jordan last summer.
Right.
Great. But sorry, back to the draft.
No, I'm excited for tonight. It's one of those drafts is something I really look forward to, and I'm excited to see where these players how well they'll progress over the season and go to next year. So
yeah.
We only have a couple minutes here left on Huddle Up. We're 2 minutes left here on Huddle Up. I appreciate anyone that's watching, especially on Periscope. We're up to 4 people, which is the most thing we've ever had on YouTube as well.
That's the whole population of Swanton.
Thank you, Swanton. Dwight Howard to the Knicks. We have someone saying that he wants it to go.
We've heard that rumor.
Yeah, we've heard that. I hope he does because I just love laughing at the New York Nets. It's been fun.
And as a bitter Magic fan,
yeah, why not, right?
I just don't want Howard to be successful anyway.
Yeah. So the question is, how does Dwight Howard fire Phil Jackson? Because eventually it would happen, right? It's like LeBron James. LeBron James midway through the season says, "I don't need this coach anymore." Okay, let's get another coach in there. Now let's go to the championship.
But the thing is that Phil Jackson isn't as dumb as Otis Smith was in Orlando. That's the big thing. And Stan Van Gundy shouldn't have been fired.
Melo Rosenhauer. They could win the 2011. All right, I guess
the Knicks could win the 2011 championship with a trio of Melo, Rose, and Howard.
I guess
retroactively
4-5 years ago. Yeah, I think they could have won it with that team. That team would have been a good team 5 years ago.
But I think Derrick Rose could actually be our generation's Penny Hardaway.
Okay,
where he was so good.
Lead it back to Orlando Magic.
So good, had so much potential, and just an injury that sort of derailed the career a little bit, turning them into a role player. So I think the question is if Derrick Rose can transition to being a role point guard, which I think he could do well.
So we'll see what happens with the draft tonight. Again, very excited to watch this. I got a softball game first, and then I'll be headed there. So, and you have wiffle ball tonight. So good luck to you, sir, in the whiffling of balls. I'm Paul. He's Bryce. We're Huddle Up, and hopefully we'll be back next week for another week. You can call us at any time at 802-527-6449. Until then, we'll see you.